never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turning around.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Today is a good day because we can explore another massive transformation. And a transformation that is probably rather unusual because I've got Erik Scott with me. Erik is a man who has been out there and working hard, playing hard, a very determined man, but then life has thrown him a curveball. And suddenly he was forced to relook at life in a very different way. And he is now here to tell his story. He is now here to actually show us that even unusual paths can lead to amazing success. So, Erik, welcome to my show.
Stephan, I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here and talk on the platform today about my journey and my story.
Indeed. Now, first of all, I mean, as you do, I mean, what shall I do in my life? Hey, I work on supercomputers. Cool. How did you get into that?
You know, growing up, I've always been intrigued with electronics. My father was a machinist, so he designed, advanced mechanical parts. And I was taught to solder, braze, weld at a very young age. And it's just always intrigued me. So I decided, why don't I go to school and learn about computers? But I did know it'd lead me down a path of systems engineering to solve the world's most challenging science and engineering problems with supercomputers, right? And at a very high level, if I was going to explain supercomputers to my grandma, I would tell her I'm going to take 20,000 of her laptops and connect them together with a network and put them in a big building. Right? And that's basically what a supercomputer is, right? Its job is to, calculate advanced numerical algorithms, right? And for medical to, design drugs, for the manufacturing industry to design weapons and airplanes and vehicles and such, and oil and gas. It's used to model the subsurface, right? Where are the hydrocarbons at and how do we extract them? But yeah, in this day and age, if you're not running a supercomputer and you're in science and engineering, you're probably not competitive.
Wow. From the word go, you actually threw yourself into an amazing field that is very, very clearly outlined and strategic, and there is a problem, there is an engineering solution, and if I just weld it right and connect it right and find out the right reason, then I can fix it. So it's a very, very practical approach to life, and it works for many, many people. The problem is when these kind of things, when you've got that kind of thinking, and suddenly something happens in our body, then it's sometimes a bit more challenging to actually link those two belief systems or those two facts together. A very straight-minded, there must be a root cause, there's the problem, I'll fix it. And then your body has different ideas. Because what happened to you?
Well, these are very binary approaches, right? There's a cause and effect. And, when you think about the back injury that I incurred, it from 20 plus years of physical fitness, 12 plus years of JuJitsu. And I was involved in various rucking events, which is basically you put a very heavy backpack on you and it's led by a special operations cadre in a team environment. And you carry very heavy things, and it's to honor various events that the military, had over the years in combat. And all of this just added up, right? And, in the early days of fitness, you're taught to just, recovery is taking a rest day. Recovery is just, okay, don't go to the gym, don't go do your run, don't, just pull back and then give your body a rest and then go back the next day, right? Or if you're taught that if you're injured, go work on a different body part, or maybe take another rest day, right? You're not really taught what real recovery is or how to diagnose a problem, right? And so that's why I dealt with 5 years of pain. And it began to be so much of a problem, I couldn't sleep at night. If you put a night vision camera on me, and there's sleep centers do this when they want you to come in and get evaluated, they put a camera on you. You would look at the video and go, this guy's having a lot of issues, right? Because I'm a tosser and a turner. Every time I would move, my low back would be in extremes amount of pain. And I know pain. I'm not no stranger to pain. I've actually been on fire before. I had 3rd and 4th degree burns on my hands and my stomach. And if you were to say what level, if that was a level 12, the back pain was probably a 10. It just felt like a hot iron was seared against my body and a dull, sharp pain that you couldn't really get away from. I was just there all the time. And I tell you, I went to all the experts. I talked to the top chiropractors that had sports medicine background. I focused on massage therapy experts, and all of these people I went and talked to, they did some sort of physical fitness. You know, I tried to resonate with and work with medical professionals that do physical fitness, because they're going to look at me and go, well, you're doing this jujitsu, you better stop. You're doing strength and conditioning, you better stop. You know, you're doing CrossFit, you better stop. Well, that's not the real answer, right? Let's dig down into the problem. So I think after 5 years, I just really was so fed up of being fed up that I said, you know, I've got to get to the root of this. And men, you know, or sometimes we're hesitant to go seek medical help. And I was not quite there in terms of not seeking medical help, but I was not really getting the right help. So that led me down a path to work with a wellness center. I said, I'm going to go talk to a wellness center because these folks have a different approach. And I know some other people from the strength and conditioning community that have been to this particular facility in Texas and saw some good results. So what I had learned about the gentleman running the facility was he was a former Special Forces medic in 18 Delta in the U.S. Army. So he knew extreme medical approaches, right? And, you know, in terms of being able to help people on the battlefield resolve like really major issues, right? So we went and worked together and did an MRI. And I've done MRIs before, but in this particular case, this gentleman was also treating people with stem cells. And that was the core reason I went. But when we looked and we found through the MRIs in 2021, it was the first MRI for this particular issue, I had 3 herniated discs, 3 compressed discs. I had canal stenosis, and the lower part of my back was suffering from arthritis, degenerative bone disease, basically. So yeah, that makes sense now, right? Why I've had 5 years of pain and the typical recovery process known, you know, that it's just because here's the thing, coaches in the physical fitness industry, their job is to coach the physical part of it, right? And not necessarily the recovery piece. It's starting to change a little bit, but yeah, through this, I really understood what the problem was. And then that led me down a path to reviewing stem cell treatment.
I'll hold you there. I'll hold you there, brother. I'll hold you there. So your pain started, and no doubt you have been a man who's very much who was utilizing your body and is now, maybe to a more extreme. So fair call. So pain started. It was mainly located in your lower back. Did you see your general practitioner? Did you see a family physician and discussed it with him?
I did. And, you know, I was given muscle relaxers, right? Or Novocaine, a patch to put on my back. But it wasn't really, it was a short-term fix. It was
Understood.
going after the immediate it was going after the immediate issue. And I knew potentially the path that I was going to be sent down was surgery. And I didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to go. I didn't want to go talk to a spinal surgeon, an orthopedic surgeon, or anything of that sorts, because I knew a high percent rate I was going to be advised to seek some sort of surgery. And I didn't want to do that because I've talked to a lot of friends that have been down similar routes. And once you're opened up, it's not that it's not going to work, but you're never the same.
Okay, I understand that. So that's good. But I guess there are several things I want to point out here. First of all, you did the right things, and you actually sought a baseline medical help. Fantastic, because some people then move straight away towards more advanced things, and sometimes just getting the basics right, making sure that there is actually not something nasty happening, because this back pain could have been a cancer that is in the bone there, or a cancer from the thyroid that is now seeding into your back. It might have been a trauma that actually caused a fracture within there. So these are all the red flag things that we want to actually rule out. So that's cool that you actually did that. So well done for using common sense there. The question then with regards to surgery or not surgery, well, one way or the other, you need an MRI. You need to actually get someone to actually look into your back. And again, that was sort of the next step, and that was very good that occurred. Now, for us in the medical field, it is always tricky, because if I grab 100 people from the street with no back pain whatsoever, drag them into an MRI scanner, and all 200 scans on them, there are 40% of them who will have discs poking out and all kind of changes there. So 40 out of 100, I will find something wrong. And in 5%, I think, what the hell? How the hell do you walk? And they have no symptoms whatsoever. So to just find something on an MRI is one thing. To marry that up with symptoms is then a complete different thing. So these are the challenges that we often face. We all live lives, and we live often lives that are traumatic. And guess what? Your spine shows you that, okay, sooner or later. So here you are. So you have got the pain. You have got the changes on MRI, fair call. So you then saw people who were in your field. You saw people who were into sports medicine, into chiropractor. So not alternative, it's just a different approach other than surgery kind of thing. Were any of these approaches helpful?
Short-term resolution is basically what it came down to. The massage therapy, I even saw specialists that were able to move the fascia around. Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Which is a difficult thing to do. I had people walk on my back that were suspended from, like poles or something like that. Specialist in this area. It was a short-term fix. And sometimes, honestly, when I was done with these hands-on, procedures by experts in their own field, I felt worse. So I'm paying to feel worse, so it's like, well, this isn't really helping, because but here's the thing, this is the traditional approach, right? That we're all taught and advised on. A strength and conditioning coach, you tell them you're hurt, they're probably going to say, hey, go.
Exactly.
Go do this other exercise, or maybe you should see a chiropractor, or maybe you should, talk massage therapy, or, now it's cryotherapy. I even tried that. And again, it was a short-term fix, but some of it is, you have a preconceived notion that this can help you. So you go in and it's something in your mind that says, it's almost confirmation bias, right? Because you're like, this could be it. Right? This could be the fix.
Well, it's the placebo effect. That's exactly what you're describing. And it's very powerful. Yes. Typically gives you short-term relief up to 3 months. And you think, wow, here I am. And then 3 months later, you're back.
and I went down the supplement route, you know, high doses of EPA, DHA fish oil, collagen, you know, everything that really helps potential joint and body kind of activities. You know, some of it's got some research behind it, but
exactly, nothing
was really working.
Interesting. Okay. Brilliant. So that is as much as we can wish for. I mean, you did all the healthy lifestyle kind of things. You looked at your nutrition, the supplements. Well, your sleep was shit, so that doesn't help. But I mean, what's the chicken and what's the egg there? But yeah, you did all the right things. So no one can blame you that you didn't actually look at simple alternatives that often can be surprisingly helpful. But in your case,
I hired a nutrition coach and put me on a macronutrient diet, right? You know, I was prescribed a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of fats, a certain amount of carbohydrates based on my activity. Yeah. That really helped, right? Because I was able to get rid of some inflammation and various things. But at the end of the day, all of this it just came back. It just kept coming back and back. To me. Yeah. And it was resurfacing. It was like a nightmare. And I tell you, there were times when I had no pain after seeing a therapist, and I thought it was a trick. You know, my own body was programmed my mind to where I was in so much pain all the time. If I spent even few hours, half day or full day would be ideal, and not in pain after seeing a really knowledgeable chiropractor massage. I thought it was a trick. I thought something, it's tough to say that, you know, like, how could it be a trick? Well, it's meaning it's not going to last, right? This pain-free moment isn't going to stick around. That for some reason, someone really didn't fix this.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Absolutely. And I think that is the fact for so many people out there. There are clearly there are situations and people where you try absolutely everything and it doesn't work. And then typically the next step is surgery. And it's understandable that you say, well, actually, I don't want that. And then doctors are at the end and say, well, okay, that's it now. Yeah, well, look after yourself and hopefully we see each other one day for a coffee. Yeah, exactly. I guess that was pretty much the point to which you came, isn't it?
It was. And I'd reached the end of what I guess U.S. medical professionals could do for me. Right. And, you know, that wasn't an easy crossroads either to deal with. Like, you know, what's next? Like, what do I possibly do? You know?
Correct. Scary. Bloody scary, man. So how did you get into into researching now more fringe or alternative or newer therapies without labeling them in a kind of negative or positive way, just things that were not yet as well established?
Yeah, I was on my chiropractor's bench and he also trained at the same strength and conditioning place I did. And he's like, look, you can keep coming here, but I don't think I'm going to have a long-term solution for you. This is a short-term fix. We're throwing Band-Aids on you. Yeah. He said, have you looked at regenerative medicine? I said, what is that? He said, stem cell treatment. He said, I've been thinking about it myself. There's some podcasts and some shows that you can go watch right now that some very famous people have gotten the treatment. And first off, that came to my mind and go, well, famous people are doing it. This sounds like really expensive, you know, but let's not put that as a barrier, right? Let's go examine and research and learn. So what I got to find out was it's stem cell treatment, MSC stem cells from the umbilical cord, which is Wharton's jelly. It's the golden cells, if you will. It's the beginning of life. There's some clinics in Panama, in Colombia. There's one that came up now and recently in the past few years in Mexico. And but but the US isn't really allowing it. The FDA isn't totally on board with this, right? And well, there's probably other reasons behind it, but there's some local clinics making some pretty audacious claims about stem cell therapy. So the FDA had to really step in and do some things about that.
Exactly.
And that's part of the pullback, right? But, there's also in the US, we have Big Pharma, which is a huge financial contributor to the FDA, right? And, there's some thoughts and things that could be said there that I don't, it's not worth our time or the listeners' time.
Yeah.
So I really read a book on stem cell therapy by Dr. Neil Riordan. He runs a stem cell therapy clinic in Panama. He has a clinic here in Dallas, Texas. But what you get in the US is they want to drill into you, pull out your stem cells, put them in a centrifugal force kind of thing and spin them around, treat them, curate them, and put them back in you. Well, I'm like, okay, I was 50 years old at the time. I'm like, I don't want 50-year-old stem cells. That's going to cost how much money? It's like, why? So I really was digging into it. And I said, if I've got this much of a back problem, which stem cell therapy clinics focus on the back? And that drew it down to almost one, right? The other clinics were good at whole body treatment, treating various diseases and known issues, right? And with a good amount of success. But there was only one that had an orthopedic surgeon on staff that administered the stem cells. There was only one that put a big focus within the clinic on back repair and back focus. This particular clinic was in Colombia, and they had a lot of user stories, a lot of references, right, that I could go listen to, like real people that have gotten the treatment. So I did an extensive amount of research. And anytime I brought it up to friends, family, or most medical professionals in the US, what are you thinking? I was told. You're going to go get these stem cells. You don't know anything about them. You don't know where they're coming from. And then plus you're going to go to Colombia. This sounds dangerous. It's like, okay, well, try sleeping, try dealing with back pain for 5 years, right? Wear my shoes for a week,
Exactly.
and then see what you say after that, because I'm not going to back off on the health and fitness, right? Because longevity, studies show that maintaining some sort of fitness level provides a longer life benefit. It's real straightforward. So I went on this deep dive, and I worked with a clinic called BioAccelerator in Medellin, Colombia, and they reviewed my MRI, jumped on a call with me. I spoke to the doctors, and they put together an extensive plan and talked it over with me. And they really felt that in my particular case, stem cells would really help me. Number one, because I didn't have previous surgeries in that back region, right? I wasn't opened up to go after the problem and then still had a problem. I was healthy. I was fit, right? I wasn't coming in limping. I wasn't, overweight to a point where, it wasn't healthy. So they said all the stars are lining up that you're like the perfect candidate. And, honestly, I have to start going, okay, I want to make sure this isn't like the sales pitch side of it, right? Because, okay, this is great, but it sounds good. But, with anything, with any good medical procedure, right, there might be a 70 to 80% likelihood of success. There's always a variance that no one can account for. But I feel really confident. And I took the therapy plan, back and reviewed it with the Special Forces medic, the former Special Forces medic at the Wellness Center. And he said, this looks good. I have stem cells here, but you're going to get, this is a 5-day treatment plan. They're going to give you more stem cells than I could in those 5 days. It's going to be of a higher quality because they know where it's coming from. They've managed it in their own labs. And here you're going to spend more money with me anyhow. Right. And so that was a big takeaway for me. So I decided to do it. I decided to move forward. And there was a lot of pre-work I had to do on myself. Just because I was fit and healthy, that I wasn't ready. I wasn't totally ready for it. So there was quite a bit of work to do before even getting there.
Let's lay the cards on the table. What are the fees? So it's a 5-day treatment, which means that you have to fly there, live there for a week, probably a bit of a pre-workup, then post-workup, a supervision, monitoring for any side effects, etc. So that all adds up. That is certainly not for the faint-hearted. What financial value were we talking about? A ballpark figure?
Yeah, you're self-insured at this point. You're out of pocket. You're paying cash. You're paying up front. You're not paying for this service when it's completed, right? You're not going to get a bill, right? And because I had the back issue and needed, to be under direct guidance and the hands of an orthopedic surgeon, orthopedic specialist, and their whole staff in a room, that elevated the cost quite a bit. And because of all these years in jiu-jitsu and fitness, my knees were having trouble. So I decided to do my knees. I did both knees. And my shoulder was having trouble. Actually, both shoulders were having trouble. And my elbow. So I did 2 knees, an elbow, and a shoulder, and my back.
Brother, what shall I say? Why did you not do everything? Come on, man.
I was trying, and, just real quick to the honesty of the clinic, because I really wanted both shoulders treated with direct MSC injections of stem cells. The orthopedic surgeon and the sports therapist, they did these maneuver flexibility tests on my shoulder. And they said, yes, we agree that one shoulder is not right, but the other one, no, like you don't need it. Like it's going to be okay. And so it wasn't okay. Let's load you up as much as possible.
Good. Ka-ching. That's right. It's
exactly.
Like bring out the other credit card. Ka-ching.
Exactly. And, I did get 3 more MRIs in Medellin that the U.S. Insurance wouldn't allow me to do. And the price of 3 MRIs in Medellin, Colombia is the price of 1 MRI here in the U.S. But getting back to your question, because I had to provide some additional context, this procedure was right around $40K. And that's with my travel. So if you were to say 35, 37K roughly, and a lot of that's because of the specialist attention required with the back, and you're getting injections in the facets in the back and the disc areas that are injured, right? So what took place was my MRI was examined. I was put on a table, additional imagery put above me. And they zeroed in on this specific injury area. And that's where the MSC stem cell treatment, the injections were. So in my back, I had 9 injections, 13 injections total because of the knees, the elbow, and the shoulder. And that was under some local anesthesia for the back. Everything else, you're basically watching when it happens because they're putting a scanner right above the joint area to understand where's the best place to put the injection, based on the injury and previous MRIs for these other areas. So you're there for 5 days and there's a lot of work going on. Day 1, I was given a stem cell IV injection. I was put on IVs with stem cells, 100 million. New stem cells. And I tell you what, when that was flowing through my body, I felt like this I was alive, like this new level of being alive. I just felt like the stem cells were going to work, you know.
I think, in all fairness, there is knowing how they work. That was probably the placebo, but it was also, there's nothing wrong with actually having that kind of excitement building. And there's something to be said about the positive effects of placebo. So
absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, I was in a hyperbaric chamber for a couple sessions during that week. So that happened prior to the procedures later in the week. The beginning of the week was prepping my body. But prior to getting even to the clinic in Colombia, I was advised through the clinic and their nutritionist to go on an anti-inflammatory diet. And it's a plant-forward diet, right? It's basically pull off all the meat, get rid of the alcohol, no coffee, everything. And the idea there was, prior to the treatment, get rid of all of the free radicals as much as possible, get rid of the overall inflammation from consuming various types of food, even though I was on a healthy diet in the first place, because they want not the acute inflammation gone, because you can't really do a whole lot about that from the impact of an injury, the trauma from an injury, but it was the chronic inflammation that you get from even pollution, breathing pollution, right? But there's a lot of different foods from various sources that bring on chronic inflammation. And the idea there is, once the stem cells go in your body and if you have a lot of inflammation from food sources, alcohol and coffee, that's what the stem cells are going to go focus on, which is not what you want, right? You want them to focus on your injury. You know, the thing that's been keeping you up for the past 5 years, the issue that, you know, put a pain level at 10, you know, and so that was quite a bit of work. And it was a fun journey because I learned more about food, you know. I've learned so much out of all of this.
Exactly, yeah.
It's just been phenomenal. But I tell you what, at the clinic, I didn't feel like a number. I didn't feel like some sort of patient that you get 8 minutes with the doctor, right? It's the first time I ever sat down with someone that really understands MRIs, and they spent an hour with me going over all the MRIs, all my body parts that had injuries, and telling me exactly what was wrong. And, you know, also giving me advice going forward, what I should limit in terms of activity to keep things from getting worse, right? Just an example, like a squat. You might squat to a 90 degree as you're bottoming towards the end of the squat. I was advised, because of my knees were pretty torn up, they were bone on bone in some places, to do a 60 degree angle, right? And it was demoed to me. They demoed it. And they said, you know, honestly, if you think about it, if you're under load, before you get to 90 degree, when you're at a 60, all your muscles are engaged.
I hear you. Yeah.
Which is good enough, honestly, when you think about it. In these various fitness modalities, it's the coaches that want to see you at a 90 because you're doing the correct form. But once you're at a 60, it was demonstrated to me, and this is kind of what I still do. It's good enough in this case, right? Because of the background and injuries and stuff. And so that's about it. I wanted to provide some additional context about the anti-inflammation diet.
Beautiful.
And
beautiful. I would have asked you exactly for that, because I mean, it's always this kind of, oh, great, we have got this new therapy where we're going to poke one needle in or 15 needles in, and that's it. And then nothing else is being done. And I think that is close to charlatanry. This is the stuff that I hate. This is our magic thing. Whilst you had a very comprehensive approach. You had an approach with a lot of rehabilitation, with a very holistic focus on nutrition, all those things that I would expect to hear, and you ticked all the boxes. I love that story. I love that holistic approach. Wow. So you had the MRIs. You had the MRIs of the knees as well, or just X-rays of the knees?
MRIs.
MRIs,
Yeah,
perfect.
I did 2 more
Perfect.
MRIs
Yeah.
in Colombia, and my elbow and my shoulder.
Yeah. Perfect. And
all of, yep.
And it was beautiful because it was all then matched up with your clinic, with your history, as well as your physical examination. That's the key thing. Only to look at a picture means bugger all, really. As I said, pictures, they are not 100% reliable. Sometimes, I mean, I work a lot with a shoulder surgeon, and we see an MRI after shoulder and think, yeah, we're going to do that tendon, that tendon. It's not uncommon that we go in there and think, what the hell? Is that the right MRI? Because it looks very different when you're actually in there compared with when what the MRI shows. So therefore, pictures is one thing. In your case, it was all done proper. Everything was married up and made sense to the treating clinicians, who then used, instead of knives, they used stem cell therapy and approached that. Wow. So how long were you there? It was 5 days treatment. Did you have to stay longer?
No, and during the afternoon, I was able to go out with my wife. We went to various sightseeing kind of activities, and folks right now are kind of putting these stem cell clinic visits together, and they're calling it a wellness vacation.
I know. That's,
Okay.
well, that's the
exactly. Yeah.
It's tricky. It's tricky. It's the Botox parties from the 90s.
It is, yeah, and we didn't really say that because we knew what the mission was. The mission was to fix myself, right? But there's time to go out and do things in the afternoon, and the clinic would connect you with various resources, and it was where I stayed. The clinic was connected to the hotel, so you just walk across the walkway, the catwalk, and you're there, right? And the thing too is, afterwards, there's a fair amount of physical therapy you need to do. I think this goes back to what you're saying. This isn't pixie dust that someone sprinkles all over you.
Exactly.
And you're just fixed. Some people are going to have different, a sped up type resolution versus maybe a little more delayed. In my case, everything kind of worked out, but it was a 6 months of intensive physical therapy. And, because, my daughter, I knew I had a daughter coming, and I was really scared that I wasn't going to be able to pick her off the ground. I put the weights down for 6 months and did nothing but physical therapy. And the physical therapy included a little, some weights, but it wasn't about that. It was about getting some tension and some strength in that lower back region. But in my case, I would have it because I got injections with the knees, the elbow, the shoulder, and the back. I did physical therapy for everything at one time. I went and saw a physical therapist. And again, this particular person, really knowledgeable, but was a CrossFit athlete, right? So knew the types of things that I did, but she put together a program for me that included my knees, my elbow, my shoulder, and my back. And I would just do it all. I'd spend an hour and a half every day just going through everything. And that's also taught me a fair amount of how to work on my body for recovery coming out of this whole thing.
Beautiful. So there you were, you had basically already that strong emphasis on using your body to the best possible way, and in ways that further recovery rather than actually further damaging you. That's a big difference. I mean, we sometimes put people through surgery, and then the next thing they say, oh, well, when can I go back into the gym and throw some weights around? And literally, that is their attitude. And when we say, well, we have just fixed your shoulder, for crying out loud. That tendon needs 6 weeks to heal, and then you need 6 weeks in order to actually learn how to use your shoulder again. What is happening? The guy puts fences up 3 weeks into his recovery, and that things will not be right. And it's the same with any approach of of curing or treating the root cause with you. So it's very easy to fuck things up, I think, if you don't follow through. And kudos to you. You actually listened to the guys and you followed it to the letter. And I think that's a part of the overall journey. People forget that it is a journey that you're going through. This is not a one fix where one person puts one needle in me and now I'm all good. That's the same thing as saying, hey, I go once to the gym and now I'm fit forever. Or I eat one salad and now that's my nutrition sorted for the rest of my life. Bullshit. So well done. Well done.
And it wasn't easy to put everything down in terms of the weights, the jujitsu, and all the other things that I was doing. But I looked at it as I've made this investment, and I've got to get the ROI, right? I've got to get rid of the ego or whatever it is that's digging into my head. And I tell you what, I would go to the same strength and conditioning facility that I would train in, and I would just go there and do my physical therapy. Because that mentally helped me be in that environment, maybe even seeing some other people training, running around, doing things. But I was over there working on myself. And every now and then people would come by and go, hey, you've been over here for like a month in the corner. What's going on? So, I'm working on something. I'm working on something. And if I don't work on this, there's consequences, right?
Excellent.
And there's consequences to a level that I can't calculate, even being a systems engineer that designs supercomputers, right? Because, it's...
Okay. Oh, well, Erik, for crying out loud. I mean, here you are. So that journey was 2020, 2021, when you went down there?
April of 2022.
And so it started and then prehab, etc. And then you went down there April 2022.
The first MRI was done in late 2021. And I spent that time, doing the research and getting the right, process down in the right facility. But, the stem cell clinic keeps reaching out to me. They told me 1 year after the treatment, we want you to go do another MRI because we want to analyze it. We want you to send that to us. We need to know how you're doing. And they would keep reaching out to me on a weekly basis. How are you feeling? They would send me software and you would have to fill out on a level of 1 to 10 kind of how do you feel today? And it could be anywhere, it could be various levels. And 1 year later, and we could talk about the post-MRI results.
Please.
1 year later, I went back to the same MRI clinic. And once you do that, at least in the US, when you have an MRI that you were there for, the same injury, and you go back, they automatically do a comparison report.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is good practice, right? And I issued that report and all the new imagery to BioAccelerator, and they came back and I said, hey, can we talk? And they said, sure. Here's what's going on in layman's terms, right? And not this hyped up medical language that I have to decipher. They said, look, you don't have any more herniated discs. They're gone. And in fact, your herniated discs now have fluid back in them. I was like, okay. And they said, and here is an image of your before treatment MRI. And they showed the herniated discs that were massively compressed. And after, you could see the fluid back in there, and they circled it with the red pen, right? And so I've got that. I've actually got the proof. And they said, there's also no signs of compressed discs anymore. So there was no signs of the herniated disc, no signs of compressed disc. But wait, there's more. And they said there's no signs of canal stenosis anymore. All we see is inflammation. And then they circled the area of my back that had the inflammation. They said that'll be the area that takes the longest to recover from, right? The inflammation. But the big hitters, the heavy pieces, right? the compressed disc, the herniated disc, the canal stenosis was gone.
Wow.
And I thought this was amazing. And at the time I was working with another chiropractor because I was still on this physical fitness journey and I wanted some hands-on work. And I showed her the report. And she had a strength and conditioning background. You know, I just seek these people out. I don't know how we just end up connecting all the time. But she said, well, you know, first off, like, I don't really have patients like you. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, you do. You're really fit. You care about your body. And I've never even heard of someone getting stem cell treatment, you know. And I said, well, here's this report, you know, because she's the one that helped me order the MRI. What do you think? She said, this is amazing. But here in the US, like with what we're taught, we never hear about canal stenosis being cured. It's not something that goes away. I was like, well, can you add more context to that? Because I'm just a regular guy that went and got stem cell treatment. I was, you know, not going to live the rest of my life like this. She said, yeah, you know, the herniated disc, fluid back in the disc, that's like not common either. But canal stenosis to have gone away and be no signs of it, and to have an MRI report that shows it and a written report from the MRI clinic, like, you're just not coming in here saying it's gone. Like, it's right in front of me, you know?
Wow. Wow. Okay. It's hard to argue against that, however you wish, because ultimately, my impression of lumbar stenosis, of canal stenosis, means tightening of the space for the nerves. That's pretty much a given. Having said that, I'm living proof that with regards to my lifestyle in the past and my genes, I should have not really got a good heart or a healthy heart. I should be heading for my first heart attack tomorrow or yesterday. And I did 2 years ago, I did a CT scan of my coronaries, and they are like those of a baby. And it just shows that with the right attention to a holistic approach and to healthy nutrition and to doing the right things, the past does not equal the future. So you can change, your body can heal. And here you are, you're another proof that this is so true. We can change things. And I think that is where increasingly we learn new things about our bodies. When I came across you and came across your story, I got in touch with my spine surgeon, the dude with whom I'm sort of working nearly every week, and we are slicing and dicing and doing exactly those things that you didn't want to have. And I said, here, look at that story. What do you think? And he's a very good man. He's a very good, balanced guy. He said, look, we just don't have the data yet. We don't know. There's often the question is, are we comparing apples with oranges? So one approach to stem cell therapy, as you just beautifully outlined, is holistic and does the whole works. And it's beautiful. And other guys, they're just squirting that stuff around here, there, and both of them are stem cell therapies. How can we expect the same outcome? And then if you then add in the third dimension, i.e. the different patients, if they take all comers. So this is Mary, who's 260 kilogram, 500 pounds, who has not done a sport in her life and continues to eat her pizza, and squirt her with some stem cells compared with you. So the patient selection will be so different in the outcomes that you then measure. So it's so hard, man. I understand my surgical colleagues who are saying, well, you know, how can we compare that? We need more data. And then people like the FDA or other regulatory organizations around the world are saying, well, unless we see the data, then, well, nah. And if you can now argue, okay, fair enough, there might, of course, be lobbyists that are far more interested that one treatment is done, not the other. Okay. So it's a very, very confused and strange layout out there as far as the management of patients with chronic back pain is concerned. There are no right answers, I guess. There will be some patients who will say, wow, I had this back operation. I never looked back. It was fantastic. Thank you very much. Love you dearly. And then there are patients like you who chose a different path and are coming out. But I mean, the truth lies in the pudding. You've told me that your MRIs are fine, but these are pictures. So how are you?
Mm-hmm.
How is your back?
I feel great. I've got like zero pain. And, the stem cell clinics reached back out to me and said, it's been another 8 months. It's almost a year. Can you go get another MRI so we can take another look and see where you're at right now?
Yeah. Nice.
So I just did that. And I just got that done last week and handed over all the imagery and waiting on some feedback. But, it's what I've learned through this is continue to do the hands-on treatment, continue to do the physical therapy.
Yeah.
I've been working with a local sports medicine facility. They work on NFL players and baseball players, soccer, and all the, and I'm sitting there on the benches right next to all these folks, and I'm just a regular guy. There's other regular people in there, right? But I'm still continuing, not chasing pain, but chasing longevity.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
And, that's the current state. And, it's just, going back to what you were just saying about each patient's different based on the situation. That's what, during my consultation, that's what was explained to me in my particular situation, because I didn't have this huge stack of other health issues, right? I'd never even had a broken bone, gratefully, right? In any of these areas, right? Dan, and or the surgeries and things like that we've been talking about. But that did help me, right? But also what helped me was my determination and my discipline to do everything I was advised to do and not question it. I think in your field too, and even in the coaching field, it's called, at least in the coaching field, be coachable. Just listen.
Oh, that's a new approach, man. If you tell that to some of our patients, then that would be nice, actually. That would be nice. My God.
Exactly.
No, the back I'll take. What about your knees?
The knees feel good.
Okay.
I could put the load back on them, but now back on the weights, doing my typical routine. I'm not heavy lifting anymore. I'm just going for the longevity, especially with my young daughter and my wife. I want to be around for quite some time, so I'm just taking the strength and conditioning aspect of it as something that keeps me moving. It keeps the muscles alert. And, I'm not overstressing anything. Like, I don't care. I don't care if there's 10 pounds on the barbell. It doesn't matter. I don't even care if it's just body weight. Body weight, you can do a lot with just body weight, routines, that's often overlooked.
And it's actually, sorry.
Yep. Go ahead.
No, it's actually so nice to go back to the basics of not just lifting weights in a quite obscure, funny setting sometimes, if you think about some of the weight exercises that we are doing and that we are defining ourselves on as far as strength is concerned. It is some of these exercises are actually quite out there compared with what we normally do, and that's where the body weight exercises come in. The body weight exercises means they work on ways of you to move your body through space, and therefore that these are very natural and probably more sensible things, you could argue, that you can work with.
Absolutely.
No, brilliant. And again, you use common sense there. I love the approach that you take there, because what we want to do is we want to increase longevity, but more importantly, not just lifespan, but health span. It's no good that you're extending your suffering for 10 years. No, how about you extend your health for 10 years, and then, well, sooner or later the niggles will come. But I mean, that is what our power is nowadays. We can choose our lives, and we have got the power of choice every second. We can make a decision that either pulls us towards a longer health span or probably more away from it. And you gave yourself a second lease of life with a admittedly rare, nowadays rare treatment modality, but that might be something that in the future becomes far more known, far more accepted, far more being done. Oh, man.
I think it is, right? And I can give you a recent real world example. My daughter's turning 1 year old tomorrow, and there's a service, at least now in the US, I don't know globally, it's called cord banking, where when your child is born, you can bank the cord that could be leveraged later for medical treatment. And because of my background and what I had just went through, I was like, that's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I did for my sons. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Wow, Erik, you're an amazing man. What an amazing story. What a sensible story. I didn't see that coming. I'm very much impressed about the holistic approach and about the common sense approach that I hear permeating throughout your whole story there. And I mean, that is the ideal way how to approach such a problem. This was probably far more holistic and far better than actually the vast majority of surgeries that are being performed where I'm instrumental in giving the anesthesia, because there is not such an extensive prehab. Often enough, there's no prehab at all. There's no emphasis on nutrition. There's no nothing there. No, it is so much wider ranging what you're doing, or what you have done and what you are now promoting, I guess. So therefore, I congratulate you, and I want you to spread that story, because it is such a beautiful, holistic, alternative approach to surgery. Wow.
Well, thank you. I really feel fortunate. I feel like there's a second lease on life, but I'm responsible for it, right? I'm responsible for all the research, the dedication, all the times that I was told this is not really smart, there's not enough data to back it up. Where are you spending this much money for? You should have just went to physical therapy. I was just met with a lot of skepticism but that didn't make me falter. Once I knew what the path was, and I had some anecdotal information from some medical professionals that were in the field, but not as well as they wanted to be in the field because of some regulations, right? It's brought me to be real appreciative of the capability that regenerative medicine has. Yeah. And, I just want to share the story. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that, Erik. Thank you, because I think it's a lovely story. It's an important story to be out there, because whilst it's very important to look at evidence-based medicine, you could argue that a lot of the evidence that is out there for, let's say, certain forms of back surgery, etc., they are far from evidence-based. They are far more industrial medicine complex based. That's maybe a bit extreme, but you know what I mean. It is we need to be open. We need to be open to look at everything, and sometimes new techniques come onto the market, and which make a lot of sense. Often enough, new techniques come on the market, which initially look good, then it turns out that's the worst thing you could possibly do. So we just don't know. So I think we need to also be understanding for those healthcare professionals who warn you against new medicines, against new therapies. That is equally as important to listen to those voices. But ultimately, you need to have the ownership. You need to do the homework, both in prehabilitation and in looking after your body, as well as in getting the knowledge up there, and then make an informed decision where you want to go. That's informed consent in the truest word. And I think that's what you clearly have demonstrated. So well done, man. Erik, wow. If people want to know more about your journey, where can people find you?
Erik L. Scott, ERIK LSCOT T on Instagram, Energized Dad. You could do a search for that. And what you'll see there is my everyday activities around fitness and what I do in the coaching space, and, helping people just rebuild themselves and build the best version of themselves. And that's what this entire journey was. Let me build the best version of me and present that person to the world, share my story, and see who else I can help.
Beautiful. Let's look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast. All of his information is down there. Whilst you're down there, press the like and subscribe button so that you get to know when we have got new guests on twice a week. I bring on amazing people like Erik. And what we really want to do is we want to make this world a better place by discussing sensible approaches forward. And today we've seen a classic example of that. So yeah, this is an amazing life that is waiting out there for us. But we need to take ownership. We need to take action. We need to create habits that are propelling us towards a longer health span and towards a life that is worthwhile living. And that means intentional living right now. So, Erik, you're an amazing man. I'm very, very grateful that you came onto my show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me on the platform, being able to share the story and dive into the details a little bit, right? Because, just for folks to know that this is a possible capability is important. But, more than that, I think it's about just having the drive and the determination to work through whatever injury it is you have until you get to the end destination.
But don't forget the journey. You had a long journey, and you made every second count. And I think that's so beautiful to you. Erik, again, you're an amazing man. Guys, what a transformation. I'm just challenging you out there. What transformation is waiting for you? Okay? So look after yourself. Live with passion. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.